So welcome, sister. Honored to have you here to chat with us today.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Mm. So, Krystal, to begin this episode, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your beautiful story because you have such an incredible and inspiring love story and just lifestyle as well. So, if you want to share a little bit with us to start this.
Okay, so a little bit of my story leading up to now. I grew up in Canada and I was living, I guess, a very normal Canadian life for a long time. I got married very young and followed the path where I bought a house and really followed along what I thought I was supposed to do. But I found myself really deeply unhappy a few years into this life that was supposed to be everything. And I knew something was missing, but I didn't really know what it was or why I was unhappy. So I found myself really blaming myself and feeling really down about not feeling good. And
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't understand it for a long time until one day I met this girl named Chelsea. And we just instantly became such good friends. And I was really inspired by her. And I ended up meeting her boyfriend and seeing the way these two lived life together and how they loved each other and just how pure their lifestyle was made so
Mm-hmm.
much sense to me. And I realized I had so much more in common with these two friends I had just made out of the blue than I had with my husband.
Wow.
And yeah, so I just it started to make so much more sense to me. And I realized that I was very different from the person I chose to had planned to spend my life with, and
Mm-hmm.
that there were people like me in the world. And that's where my unhappiness came from. I was trying to put myself in this box, but I
Mm-hmm.
was so different from the person that would enjoy being inside that box. So I started spending a lot more time with these two amazing friends of mine, and I was just so inspired by their love, and it really all started to make sense. And then one day, I found out that they had broken up. And my world of what I thought a perfect love looked like just shattered. And in that, I really realized if they weren't meant to be together, I was definitely not in the right space with my partner. And it all started to really click for me. So,
Wow. Yeah. I know you, well, we're both from Canada. And for me, like growing up in small town, northern Canada, it was very similar where, I was engaged to be married. And I'm really grateful that even at the young age, as we were planning our wedding, I was like, my body was rejecting it. I was getting physically sick and I couldn't sleep. I'm like, this just does not feel good in my body. But that's what everyone was doing around me. So
yeah.
I just really honor that you were able to, well, you didn't share the whole story yet, but that you walked away from that marriage because so many, especially when we marry young or we make these commitments, even if it's like a marriage or university and these things, because we're told we have to have it all figured out, like in our 20s, which I just think is crazy.
Yeah.
And so many of us just wake up one day and we're like, this isn't my life and it doesn't feel right. But a lot of us can easily ignore that feeling and be like, kind of just settle. So I just really honor that you were able to take that leap and to really honor what is in alignment for you, because it's a very scary thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. It was so scary, and it took me a while to actually leave. I recognized it when my two best friends broke up. It was clear to me, but I was scared. I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to hurt my husband, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to have to sell the house and split everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, the messiness of it all um, really scared me. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
my soul wanted something different. And I knew I was meant for a different life, but I almost sacrificed that and stayed anyway because I just didn't know how to choose myself at first. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I continued to stay really good friends with these two, and they stayed really good friends, which really inspired me. Edward and Chelsea are still amazing friends to this day. And I started to naturally just become closer with them both individually as opposed to together. So I would spend time sometimes with Chelsea, sometimes with Edward, and still I found I wasn't really spending much time at home with my partner anymore because I just knew I wasn't feeling good there, and
Mm-hmm.
I was so drawn outside. So I started to become a lot closer with Edward, and eventually it just started to hit me that there's a guy out there in the world so similar to me too, with
Mm-hmm.
so much in common, and things were just so easy and so natural with him. And eventually his friendship started to mean more to me than my marriage. And I didn't really know what that meant. I pushed aside any feelings of feelings for him, but the friendship was so pure, and it really just inspired me to completely change my life. I started doing the things I wanted to do so much more, taking such better care of myself, and really just like listening to my heart. Um, and that was all going well. And then one day, Edward sang to me, and I just fell in love. Fell
Oh.
completely in love. And I tried to deny it. I really didn't know how I could let myself love someone new because I was so committed in this other life. But one day it dawned on me that I was really denying myself of happiness, and that I had never felt things be so blissful and so natural and so easy with anyone ever in my life, male or female. And here there was this very attractive man that I had completely fallen for, that had everything I would look for in a partner, but I really was not looking. And I tried to push those thoughts away and just continue on my path. But one day I was driving with my husband, and he felt me pulling away. He felt me trying to leave. I tried to leave multiple times, but he really would always convince me to stay and tell me things would change and that he would change and that things would be better. And nothing ever really changed. So one day I just really realized I had to fully make up my mind, and I was trying so hard to choose him, to choose the life that I had committed myself to. And I was so pulled away from it. I had to get out of the car, and we were driving, and I was like, let me out of the car. I need some time. I need to think. I need some space. And I got out of the car and I just started to run. And I was running and running, and I found myself running to Edward's house. And so,
Wow.
so I
I'm
called.
like tearing up with your story.
It was very emotional.
Oh.
It's a very deep story, but I ran to Edward, and I called him, and he came out to meet me, and I just finally shared. I just shared from my heart how I was feeling, how everything felt so synchronistic, and there had to be a reason why we met, and there had to be a reason why our paths had come together. And he was in exactly the same space, but he would have never shared first. And yeah, I really realized that we had fallen in love with each other in this really
Mm.
beautiful, platonic, respectful way. And that at that point, I had to leave my marriage. There was no way I couldn't explore what this
Mm-hmm.
had become and continue to deny myself happiness and sacrifice myself and cause harm to my partner at the time, too, because I had tried to stay with him to protect him by being hurt by me, but not not making a change because you don't want to cause harm to your partner isn't showing your partner love. You should be there out of
Mm-hmm.
pure love and pure joy and pure commitment. And for me, I had realized my commitment to him had become so fear based. I was there because I didn't want
Mm.
to hurt him. So I broke up with him the next morning and allowed myself to fall in love with Edward,
Mm.
and my life radically shifted from the first day.
Wow. I just started my moon today and didn't realize I'm getting so emotional with your story.
Oh,
I'm like, oh my gosh. It's so beautiful though. And it's just like, ah, it's such a beautiful example of literally following your heart. Like you just ran to his place.
yeah,
Like you're like, I've had enough and I'm just listening to my heart and I'm letting it lead me. And yeah, as I shared, like so many people end up in similar situations and we can get caught up in the ideas of right and wrong and what we should be doing and how we should be feeling. And
yeah,
it's just such a beautiful example of releasing the, should be's and all of that and just following your heart.
and
And I love that you mentioned too, for your ex-husband, even if he was fighting to continue to have that relationship, we all deserve someone that's all the way in, right? And it
yeah,
feels like we're being selfish choosing ourselves, but at the end of the day, our partner also deserves someone that's fully in, right? Not just like halfway in
yeah,
and having those feelings. So it's actually not being selfish. It's also putting
totally.
them, like their feelings ahead
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. And he found her. He found her this year, and it's just
Really?
to
Oh.
witness the other side of it now. Because
Hmm.
leaving was so right for me, but I did still harbor guilt for years, worrying about
Hmm.
him, wondering if he would be okay. And I had to just release myself from that and know it's his own journey,
Hmm.
and trust that he would find his way. And yeah, he met the most beautiful girl for
Oh.
him, and their life looks perfect for them now.
Mm.
And yeah, it's beautiful to witness him find love again. So
Wow.
that
That's so
yeah, we're
powerful.
so much
Oh.
more meant to be than we were.
Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense at the time, but later on, like maybe it's a year, maybe a week, maybe years down the road, it's like, okay, that's why it happened the way that it did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really held that vision. I held that vision for both
Mm.
of us and for all of us, that it was all happening as it was meant to, and that the pieces
Mm.
we didn't understand, we would understand along the road. So, and we all truly do.
Mm. Oh, it's so beautiful. I just love the story, and I know that like many listening will be inspired by it as well. Maybe if they're feeling stuck, like the
Yeah.
leap is always scary, but on the other end, like it's always something in more alignment, right?
Yeah, you have to leave.
Yeah.
You have to leave. You can't
Mm.
sacrifice yourself and the people around you. And if you are sacrificing, it just isn't pure and true for the people that are in that space with you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
believer that we truly need to listen to our heart and follow our intuition, and that staying would almost be more selfish. Like
Mm-hmm.
fearing the fear so much that you stay in it is no
Mm-hmm.
space for love to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
in a romantic relationship, especially, it should be a space of pure love, pure joy, not just based on labels and past commitments.
Mm-hmm.
We should be present and continuing to share love from our hearts every single day. And if it's not there, we need to look at the reasons why.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And also just honoring our changes and our different
Yeah.
seasons, and that sometimes what was meant for us at a certain time later might not be. And we're never
Yeah.
actually stuck, even though we feel like we are. We always have the option to, restart and rebirth and follow our hearts. Oh, I just love it. And now you and Edward are, tell us about the magic of this present
Yes,
moment.
thank you. So, Edward and I live completely nomadically now. We've been traveling for a few years together. It's actually really beautiful too. When we first fell in love and I left my partner, Edward actually encouraged me to take some time on my own to go travel and get to know myself by myself, because I had started dating my ex-husband when I was only 16. And so,
Wow.
yeah, when I fell in love with Edward, I had never really had a space in my life ever where I was single or on my own or independent in any way. And we fell so madly in love that single was not something I craved or desired at all, but I did very much crave independence and time for me and time to explore and just know that I'd be okay on my own and that I wasn't needing someone to save me, but I wanted to be with someone. So he really encouraged me to go on a journey. So I sold everything I owned and I bought a one-way ticket to Thailand and started traveling.
Wow.
Yeah. And he planned to join me, but gave me time first for myself as long as I needed or wanted. And really, I wanted him there right away, but I knew how powerful that time would be. And it was so transformational to go out on my own journey. I didn't book anything. I didn't get a data plan on my phone. I would just walk and let energy lead me exactly where I was meant to be and find the places to stay and figure everything out as I was going. And it was so empowering to have that time. And flash forward to now, we are living this way together. And we have a son now. Our baby boy is 2 years old. And I'm so grateful to have had time independently to explore this side of myself before we jumped into the family life now, continuing this beautiful nomadic journey. So all those moments of intense fear were so important, looking back, to be able to grow to the next level and really appreciate the other side.
Yeah, it's so important to have that space too. It's hard sometimes when you're just like, I want to be with you, let's jump into this. But yeah, it's just beautiful that he really encouraged you to have that space too. And you just had dived into a marriage. So at 16, wow. How long did you stay on your own in Thailand before you guys reunited?
Yes, I spent 1 month solo in Thailand and then 1 month in Bali with a few friends of mine that were traveling there already. And then on month 3, he came to Thailand to meet me. And a week into our journey, Chelsea came and spent the month with us too. So his ex-girlfriend is our best friend in the world. She is the godmother of our little boy. And yeah, we've all kept the most beautiful, pure friendship. She's like absolute family, soul sister to me always. I think it's important to note too that Chelsea was so supportive of Edward and I entering into a relationship together. And I actually spoke to her about it and asked her for permission before we entered into anything. And she literally started jumping up and down in the air with joy. And she told me it was the happiest day ever. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. Yeah, because it is possible to do so many things just in a space of love, but we're so often programmed that even breakups have to be messy, that we can't be friends with our exes. Like we have all these silly rules and like human ideas of, again, what's right and wrong, but like how things are supposed to be. So I just love that you're showing us that, you can be friends with your ex, you can be close, we can rewrite our stories around like how relationships are supposed to be as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've really
Mm,
witnessed that through Chelsea and Edward, like from their breakup till now.
mm,
I had never experienced anything like that in love, and now that's the norm to me. I've met a lot of people living very alternative
mhm,
lifestyles and really listening to their hearts and listening to their intuition. And yeah, the boxes that
mhm,
we sometimes grow up in, they're not everything. And there's so many ways that we can
mhm.
live life that are above and beyond anything that we could really imagine when we're still stuck inside the box. But if you feel like the box isn't for you, it doesn't have to be. There's
Mhm.
so many different ways we can live and love and be together.
Yes. Yes. Amen to that. I love it.
Thank you.
So inspiring. I always love hearing your story. I know it's like following along your Instagram posts. I'm like, oh my God, sharing your story. It's just so beautiful. And it just feels so like such a, authentic and just deep honoring of your hearts together. And I love it. So on my Instagram, I also posted for some of my audience to ask you some questions. So I was asked a few times what your greatest challenges are, as I'm sure there must be many, traveling as a family, a new family, and also with a little one. And your little one's name is Zen, right? I love that name. It's so cute.
That's right. He's Zen, and he was born in
Oh.
Bali. And
Hmm.
I'd say the biggest challenges traveling with a young child would be being away from family and loved ones.
Mm.
Especially when Zen was first born, we were living in Bali, just on our own journey. He was born in the middle of 2020, so it was a pretty wild time in the world. And for the first few months, we really didn't have any support systems around us. And we just jumped into parenthood with no fear, no plan, no experience, as many people do. And yeah, we quickly realized we really needed help. We needed support
Hmm.
systems around us and community, and we didn't have it at the time. So the first few months were very challenging, and after that, we realized that we could have help from other people. Family's not there, but we can still have help from other families and other mamas and communities. So since then, we've always chosen to find local amazing women that can assist us. So while we were
Mm.
living in Bali, we hired an incredible nanny when Zen was 3 months old, and as soon as she came in, life changed so much for us. She had such grounded, powerful, amazing mama energy that really allowed us to just like step back a little bit, have some assistance. Things got a lot better when we let help come in. And then for Zen, he's been exposed now to so many languages and cultures and different people since he was just that wee little baby. So it's been a really beautiful way to just give him a unique and beautiful life, and for us to have time as a couple, and for us to have time to work and create and step away. So we really don't do this journey on our own now. We always ensure that we have someone that can step in and help, and grandma
Hmm.
energy and mama energy around us, so that we can live this way and not feel like we're on our own doing it at all.
Hmm. So community and having the support systems, very
Yes.
important. And you also had a at-home birth in Bali, right?
Yeah, we did. It was.
Did that feel like exciting for you, or was there a lot of fear around that? Because I feel like that's what I would like, but at the same time, there's like a lot of fears around it.
Totally. I'd say in the very beginning, I was a little bit nervous going into it. I knew I wanted to birth at home. That was really clear to
Hmm.
me. But being in Bali, in a foreign country, I was a little bit uncertain.
Hmm.
Because when I became pregnant, we were actually in Canada at the time. I had gone back to Canada after my journeys through Asia for a little while, and pretty quickly I became pregnant, and we knew we needed to get out of the country and live a different way before we got stuck in a normal life, because that was not what we wanted to do. So we moved to Bali as soon as we found out that I was pregnant, um, and then COVID hit when I was about 6 months pregnant. And at the time, I didn't think that Bali would be where I would give birth. We were talking about a lot of different places, and we were just still planning to keep traveling. And suddenly, all the borders were closing. There was all this panic going
Mm.
on in the world. Everyone's telling you to go back to your home country. People are telling us if we're going, like, that we should go back to Canada, and all this fear is all around us. And
Mhm.
so myself, like now 6 months pregnant, I had to really be like, oh, okay, is this fear my own? Is
Mhm.
this the fear of the planet right now? Like, what makes sense to me? And we wrote a list. We're like, okay, where could we go? What borders are still open? What feels right? And I really felt, and Edward too, we really felt we shouldn't go back to Canada. We felt very called to
Mhm.
stay nomadic. And we started to realize where we were was such a beautiful place. We already loved Bali so much. I just hadn't thought about birthing there at the time. So I felt a little nervous at first, until I met my doula. So as soon as I met my doula, and I just connected with her online through a mamas group on Facebook, and when I met her, I knew I'd be safe. I knew that she would help
Mm.
me bring my baby into the world in such
Mhm.
a pure, safe, beautiful way that my
Mm.
fear melted away.
Mm.
So again, coming back to the support systems, I think it's so important as mothers and parents, like whether you're expecting or you're already having a family, having people around you that have been there and have walked
Mhm.
those paths to really guide you and support you and help you and hold your hand is so important. So as soon as I met
Mm.
her, I felt really peaceful, and I knew that Bali was the right place and that I could have the home birth that I wanted there, and that I would be safe and our son would be safe, and that it was the right
Mm.
decision for us.
Wow. And just such crazy times to really honor that too and commit to it because, it'd be so easy to just fly back to Canada. When it all happened, I was in Australia at the
Yeah.
start and I was feeling that too. Everyone's telling me to go back home. I'm like, I don't want to get stuck in Canada either. And yeah, it was just, I can't imagine, being pregnant, but I guess having your partner and having that support system was really helpful at the time, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So does Zen have, since he was born in Bali, does he have dual citizenship then?
Oh, I wish that he did. And it's actually very challenging to get dual citizenship in Bali.
Mm.
To get
Okay.
Indonesian citizenship, you need to have an Indonesian parent. And because we're not
Mm.
Indonesian, we weren't able to give that to him. And that was
Hmm.
actually one of the biggest reasons why we hadn't planned to birth in Bali, because Bali is a very beautiful place and we loved living there. It's really
Mm.
my favorite place on earth that I've experienced so far. But
Hmm.
we wanted to move to a country where he could have dual citizenship. And really, every
Hmm.
country has different rules and regulations with that. So, most countries in North America and a lot of countries in Central and South America grant dual citizenship. So our plan had actually been to fly to either
Mm,
Panama or Costa Rica and birth him there so he could have more than one citizenship. And we had never been to either place. We just felt like those
mm,
would be really safe, wholesome places to give that gift of
mm-hmm,
multiple citizenships to our son. And yeah, in the end, that wasn't our journey, but Bali was the perfect place to bring him into the world. The energy was so peaceful and
mm,
so family based. The local people really, really value family, and the energy there is very safe and supportive.
mm-hmm,
And it was just absolutely pure bliss. We ended up moving
mm,
into this magical suite that had this big, beautiful stone tub. And I had wanted to birth
wow,
in the water. So as soon as we found this
mm.
space, I was like, okay, we're definitely giving birth here in Bali. I want to give birth in that tub.
Aw,
And it really helped me know I was in the right space to have everything align like that. And
mm,
meeting my doula, it just all really came together, and I just trusted that that was right for me, and it really was.
mm. Oh, it's so beautiful. And Bali does have such a unique, just magical, beautiful energy to it. So I could definitely see that. So what's your plan? Do you guys plan on being nomadic forever? And for Zen, when he's old enough for school, like going into kindergarten, do you plan on homeschooling and having kind of an alternative lifestyle and continuing your travels? Or
So we love this life that we're living so much. We definitely plan to always stay abroad and continue to travel, but I could see us having a home base abroad somewhere in the future. I don't know
mm,
exactly what that looks like or what the timeline is. It definitely could be in Bali, but we'd like to see a lot more of the world before we decide. Um, but I'm not worried about schooling and what that timeline looks like. Zen is actually already in an incredible preschool here in Tulum. There's
mm,
so much opportunity around the world to educate our children. I always thought before becoming a mom that I would definitely homeschool. It felt like something I wanted to do. And I'm still open to it down the road. But right now, we've been able to find incredible help around us. And
mm,
Zen's preschool has been amazing. They take babies as young as 8 months old, and he started when he
mm.
was one. And he's been able to learn so much with them this year. He speaks as much Spanish as he does English. We don't
Aw.
even speak Spanish yet. So it's
Wow.
been just so beautiful to be able to give the gift of different cultures and allow
Hmm.
him to meet children from all around the world and have these social experiences with other young ones. So we really,
Uh,
yeah, we're very open to finding schools as we travel. And there might be a time
mm,
where Zen really wants us to settle into one space, and I'm sure we will honor that when that comes. But right now, we are really enjoying diving into a space. We feel like we prefer to slow travel now as opposed to quickly going from one destination to
mhm,
another. So we tend to spend enough time in a place that Zen can really get to know his caretakers and other
mm,
children and have education and have like a lot of support around him and around us, and just enjoy a space for 6 months to a year before we journey onwards. So I
mm,
feel like we get to ground into each space so well that we're certainly not missing out on any educational opportunities, and we can live this really alternative nomadic lifestyle and explore the world while still really having a system of education to support us and our son too.
mm. Wow, I love it. it's so inspiring because obviously I've been traveling for like 14 years now.
Yeah.
And if I have a child, I would love to be traveling full time too. And just knowing that there are good education systems. But ultimately, he is getting the best education, just getting to experience firsthand different cultures. And it's a dream, like for so many. Yeah. Yeah, so I just see your stories on Instagram all the time, and I feel like I'm slacking because when I first started traveling, the first like 5 years, I was just really on top of like my nutrients and my food and everything. And then I kind of got lazy for a couple of years, and now I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm just curious, how do you stay on top of creating such beautiful foods, especially when you're traveling? And yeah, do you have any tips around that?
Yes, well, one of the big reasons that we wanted to travel too, there's so many reasons to travel, but we eat so many fruits and vegetables in our family. We are really into fresh nutrition and really
Mm,
nutrient dense eating. And it can be challenging in Canada. Canada's very seasonal. So in the
mm-hmm.
summer, like the spring, the summer, even the fall, we can be very abundant. But in the winter, it can be challenging to get fresh produce. And it can also be very expensive in Canada to eat healthy too. Where everywhere we've lived, we have an abundance of fresh fruits and veggies
Mm,
around us for a fraction of the
mm,
cost, and it's so easy to eat healthy. We find we just stock our fridge full of plants and have tons of fruit on the counter at all times, and we love eating fresh food. We eat a ton of raw food, and yeah, I feel like for us it's actually easier to eat healthy while traveling than it would be back home in Canada. So it's
oh,
been
wow. Yeah.
very, very aligned for us to be in these places where the fruits and the vegetables are in season so much out of the year,
Mm,
and they're fresh, and all the tropical things we love are all around us. So it's been
mm.
a good space to be healthy.
That's amazing. Yeah, the prices in Canada are pretty wild right now too. They've gone up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's good. Do you think that traveling the way that you do it is more budget friendly than if you were raising your family back in Canada?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
So much more. We can live a much higher quality of life abroad than we lived in Canada, for a fraction of the cost. We have so
mm,
much more help around us and fresh food, and yeah, just such a beautiful lifestyle living this way.
mm.
I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's good to hear because I feel many think that like they see that nomadic lifestyle and they're thinking, oh my God, that must be so expensive. But it's actually not I guess if you know how to approach it. Obviously, when you go on a vacation, you end up spending so much money, but when it's actually your lifestyle, I find that you really learn how to navigate it.
Yes, totally. I so agree with that. I find usually the first few weeks or even the first month in a country, you end up spending a lot more before you really learn how you can do things
Mm,
affordably, what the local people are paying,
hmm
and what the prices of things really can be or should be in these spaces. Because when you're going in just as a short term traveler on holiday, it is easy to spend a lot more, and you want to fully experience a place when you're just there for a week or two as well, so you're
hmm
fully indulging on everything. Where yeah, once you step in and make a space your home for an extended period of time, there's so many ways to make it affordable. We find places get more and more affordable the longer we're in there. Like yeah, when we lived in Bali, the last few months living in Bali, like we cut our expenses down to maybe a quarter of what they were when we first moved there. And
uh,
Bali was affordable for us even in the beginning. So
hmm
it's very possible to live this life long term. And yeah, it's, I think, for us a lot easier than it would be to live at home and be in the systems of Canada and North America that really have you working that 9 to 5 job and
Mm-hmm.
being stuck in a system that can feel so challenging to break out of. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when you do step out, you realize it's not like that everywhere, and it doesn't need to be like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the familiar, what we're used to, can just feel safer sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm. And it helps. Definitely, I learned too. Once you stay somewhere past that, like 1 to 2 months, then you start meeting locals and they kind of show you how it is. And then you learn the real prices of everything. And it's a totally
Totally.
different experience.
Yes, they generally tell you you're paying way too much, and they
Yeah.
usually want to help you to save a little bit of money. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you build those local friendships, it's so powerful to really dive into the community and understand how the locals live, and yeah, have support from people that really know what life is like there when you're there long term.
Mm-hmm.
So we've definitely experienced
Mm-hmm.
that too.
Oh, well, everything's just been so incredible. I know it's going to inspire many to possibly break out of their, the perceived box that they may feel they're in and just take the leap and go for it, because I think this is coming up more and more too, just this
Yeah,
nomadic lifestyle and learning how to make it work for you. And
yeah.
yeah, so it's been very inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your
You're so
beautiful
welcome.
story. I just have one last question for you. So, for anyone that's listening and has that fear coming up, what advice would you have or tips just for, I guess, breaking out of, the lifestyle that they've been used to for a while and just like the lifestyle used to be? And what would be any tips that you have?
I'd say the biggest things to break out of the system is to really follow your heart and follow your intuition and just push
Mm-hmm.
past the fear. The fear is there for a reason. The fear is trying to protect you and keep you in this space where you know what things are like. But there's so much beauty on the other side that you really need to push past if that's your desire. If your desire is more, you can have more, but you need to be able to conquer your fear and step outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, one of the biggest things I think is just like we really realized we needed to focus on positivity and having positive people around us and stepping away from those limiting beliefs that many people might try to put on you. So just having trust that you can do it and trust that there is another way. And then when you do step outside and you find yourself, on that plane going to a new place, you want to make sure that your basic needs of survival are going to be met. So have your shelter lined up, know where you're going to be staying. It can be really helpful too to stay in a place for a week or so before you commit. Like we don't go to a country and decide, okay, we're going to stay here a year. It's going to be exactly like this. We'll
Mm-hmm.
book this long-term rental. We generally will book just an Airbnb for the first few days or the first week and feel it out and get to know the town, and then feel where we really feel called to and what feels right for us before we commit in. And making sure you have some sort of income that can support you. It's great to have online income, and know where your food is coming from, figure out where the good grocery stores are, and just set yourself up where those basic needs of survival are going to
Mm-hmm.
be so set, and then the rest just becomes magic.
I love it. It's all such incredible, potent advice. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, sister, for sharing. And just to end this, where can we find you and what do you have going on? How can people step more into your world?
Thank you. So, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. I have two. So, I share one account with my partner, Edward, where we share all about love and travel and family and our lifestyle abroad. And that is The Raw Explorers. And then I also have a personal account where I share everything beauty and hair. I'm a hairstylist. And
Yeah, we didn't get too much into that, but you have an incredible hair empowerment program that I took. And you also did my hair when you were in Canada, which was beautiful. We can talk about that a little bit if you want to, because I just highly recommend your program to anyone listening, because as I shared, it was really like the program that I didn't realize that I needed.
thank you. So, I am a hair empowerment artist, and I've been doing hair since I was 16 years old. I found my calling for beauty very early
Mm,
in life, and it really transformed my world. Before becoming a hair artist, I was so shy, just deathly shy. I couldn't look
mm.
anyone in the eye. Like, I would never dream of being on this podcast. I had so much fear coming up for me in my life everywhere. And
Mhm.
yeah, I had this idea that came to me that maybe I was meant to be a hairstylist, and I explored it, and I ended up falling in love with hair. I had really damaged hair before getting into this world, and very quickly I was able to transform my hair and transform my confidence and really transform my life
Mm.
with it. So when I started traveling, I had this question come up, like, what am I going to do? Because I had loved living in the same place for so long and having amazing clients and being a hair artist to a lot of amazing women, where I was
Mhm.
from. But I knew I needed to live this other life, but I couldn't leave my craft behind. Hair is so important to me. It was harder to leave my clients than it was, to leave the life I was living, before. So
Mhm.
I had this deep calling come to me from the universe to create a program where I could show women how to achieve the hair of their greatest desires and share all of the knowledge and the tips and the secrets I've learned in these 12 years as a hair artist, so that they could truly step into their power and their confidence and learn all the things I knew that really transformed my life when I was in that first leap from being so shy and so scared to really feeling confident and beautiful when I looked in the mirror. So
Mm.
yeah, now I share this with women as I travel. I have an online program called the Beautiful Hair Empowerment Program, and it really has been such a magical way to support more women around the world and continue to support all of my guests back home in Canada and everyone I meet
Mm.
along the way, and just share this side of life with them too. So
Mhm.
if anyone would like to learn more, I also have this personal account on Instagram called Your Goddess Guide, where I go deep into feminine empowerment and beauty and the power that we hold in our hair, our sacred strands. Yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who feels called and would like to know more and would like to make a change and really step into a life that they love.
Mm. So beautiful. And both those accounts are so inspiring. They're my favorites, actually. Your love story of Raw Explorers, I'd highly recommend as well. And I feel like it's going to blow up because it should. Your content's incredible.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you came into my life for many reasons, but
Oh,
one of them also being just a reminder of the sacredness of our hair, because my hair journey has been really interesting. But at one point in my life, on plant medicine, sitting with plant medicine, and I cut out my hair, like my extensions at my root, because I had this whole awakening that like it's part of my ego and it has to be removed. And then getting dreadlocks was also one of the main reasons, was releasing my ego around how my hair should look, because I had this shame of like going into a spiritual lifestyle that I'm caring so much about the way that I look. And then you were a really beautiful reminder of the sacredness that, caring also and putting in the effort and actually taking care of our hair in a more natural, empowering way, it's still like, it's a very spiritual experience. And there's a more conscious approach than just putting chemicals in our hair
Mm-hmm.
and styling it all the time and frying it and everything. So yeah, it was really empowering for me to come back to that realization.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to share that with you, and yeah, to just have that experience in life, because I've definitely had
Mm.
similar times too where I really didn't know if it was okay to care about my appearance and to want to look a certain way. But I believe as women and as people, as everyone on this earth, there's so much energy in everything that we do. And you absolutely can put the most beautiful energy into your outward expression. This is how the world sees you. And it's certainly not everything, but it's this beautiful way to express yourself and express how you're feeling in the inside. I like to really give that space for women to be able to share their energy and their true essence through their outward expression. I still do hair as a traveling artist too, and I love to enhance people's beauty in a way that it grows out effortlessly and like just brings out all of their favorite parts of themselves. So I think this is something we don't need to shy away from or feel any shame about in the spiritual community or in any community. You can express yourself any way that you desire. And hair is a great place to start too.
Yes, I love it all. And really, that's a tantric perspective, is that we get to play in this world and we get to dress up as goddesses and we get to feel beautiful. And there's nothing to be, there's nothing unspiritual about it. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Krystal. I know this is going to be super inspiring for many listening, and I will link all of your links in the show notes anyway, so people can find you through there. And yeah, just thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story and amazing lifestyle with us.
Thank you so much, Goddess. It's my absolute pleasure to share.